Hello guys, today we're going to be talking about the diaphragm. Now the diaphragm is a dome-shaped piece of muscle that separates the thoracic cavity above it and the abdominal cavity below it. The function of this muscle is for inhalation. So as you breathe, the diaphragm actually moves downward to allow more to allow the lungs to expand as you breathe. And then as you exhale, the diaphragm relaxes and it actually squeezes the lung cavity so that the air is pushed outwards. Now the diaphragm is innervated by the C3 to C5 nerve root, and an easy way to remember that is C3 to 5 keeps the diaphragm alive. I'll say that again, C3 to 5 keeps the diaphragm alive. Now we go down and we see a close-up picture of the diaphragm. We can see there are two parts, this white part and the pink part outside. The middle part, or the white part, is the central tendon, and the outside is the peripheral muscles. They have different embryological origins, but that's really all you need to know, the difference between the two right now. So as I said, this diaphragm separates the abdominal cavity and the thoracic cavity. However, there are some structures that need to pass through this diaphragm in order for the body to function properly. These things include the vena cava, the esophagus, and the aorta. So there are these openings or hiatus within the diaphragm to allow these passages to go through. And an easy way to remember what structures pass through the diaphragm and also at what vertebral levels they go through, we use the acronym, or rather the mnemonic, I ate 10 eggs at noon. And this corresponds to I, the inferior vena cava, and 8. This is the inferior vena cava passes through the diaphragm at vertebral level T8. The next one is E, the esophagus, passes through the diaphragm at vertebral level T10. That's the 10 eggs, or the 10E. And lastly is the at noon, which is A for the aorta, at vertebral level T12. Also note that the azygous vein and the thoracic duct also pass through at T12. Now, if we go back to this picture, we can see that there are a few things besides the diaphragm here. We can see below there are a few ligaments and some muscles. So if we start with the ligaments, there are 5. The median arcuate ligament, 2 medial arcuate ligaments on either side of that, and 2 lateral arcuate ligaments beside that. So again, we see the median arcuate ligament surrounds the aorta at vertebral level T12. The 2 medial arcuate ligaments surround the psoas major muscle on both sides, and the 2 lateral arcuate ligaments surround the quadratus lumborum muscle on both sides. Also note there are 2 crura, which are these extensions here, one on the left and one on the right, that also surround the aorta and attach it to the vertebral column behind it. Now, the important thing about the diaphragm, as I said, is to separate the thoracic and abdominal cavity. However, there are some instances in which this can be damaged, and so there is herniation of the either the stomach or the intestine into the lung cavity above it. And this is problematic because it causes hypoplasticity of the lung, which means that the lung is actually much smaller than it is supposed to be. And so there are 2 types of herniation. The more common one is called Bogdalic herniation, and this appears in the posterolateral section of the diaphragm, usually on the left side, because the right side closes first. The other one is the Morgagni herniation that occurs parasternal. And an easy way to remember the difference between them is that Bogdalic is behind, so it is closer to the back of the diaphragm, while Morgagni is closer to the sternum. is closer to the front. Now, besides herniation, there's another event that could occur called eventration, in which there is no actual hole in the diaphragm, as in herniation, but in eventration, there's actually a weakness in the diaphragm in which the intestine can go through. So that is the function and the anatomy of the diaphragm, and this helpful mnemonic, I ate 10 eggs at noon, to help us remember the structures that pass through the diaphragm and where they occur. Okay, thank you. See you next time.